Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I had another light back there. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it's back there for the moment. I could not bring Rhett today because the dogs, my son's dogs, are coming over. They usually come in right towards the end of these videos or middle of these videos, so it's a bit chaotic for Rhett. Um, so I think that's going to happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays from here on out, but we'll see. Um, so I am on a major detour at this point, and that is I'm trying to sort of grasp deleting objects in JavaScript. And I guess there's two major reasons for that. And one is because it's just like bizarre, but it's sort of a new concept for me. Normally, I just sort of just delete things from arrays or from dictionaries or whatever, and then kind of let the JavaScript engine decide when something needs to be deleted or not. But the JavaScript engine won't delete it unless all references are gone. And so and I've never really thought about that, and it really has never been a big deal. Or if it has been a big deal, it's always been like a problem that I just didn't wasn't aware that I had. Kind of like I've been in environments where there's like a sound and I never noticed the sound, and then someone points it out, and then it's like, oh my gosh, that sound is so annoying. And it's just like, why did you tell me about that sound? It's just like, or I remember once someone told me, like, there was a drink I used to really enjoy, and then someone said, oh, I don't like that drink because I could taste this in it, and then I could taste that in it, and I didn't like the drink anymore. And I was just like, man, I wish you had never told me. I actually used to have a really good friend that would, like, that was all he lived for in life, was to point out everything's negative things and everything that you enjoyed. And he was just like, dude, you ruin everything. Um, but anyways, so delete is something I just never really considered, and I do think it has been a problem for me in the past, in that I have worked on applications where like the application just gets slower and slower and slower. And a lot of people, when you read about it and say, hey, why is my application getting slower? They say it's a memory leak, but the application is so big and complex by the time that you're dealing with the memory leak that, it's just not really feasible. Even if you figure out where the memory leak is, unwinding the code, like all the deleting, actually taking care of it is unwieldy. So I do think that it is possible that this memory or this deleting issue could possibly be um, a poison pill that makes this application something incapable of doing things that I'm going to want in the future. And so there's that. Secondary, and the biggest reason I think that is because like I know when I started the last version of this application that I had this concept, and the concept was there should only be one source of truth. But the problem is that that's a very, very good, like, kind of rule of thumb. But in this situation, I need two sources of truth. So I have two concepts that I'm trying to deal with, and one that I have full control over, and one that I don't have any control over. And one is like how I how I want things to work. So like I want, whenever a camera is pointing at something, to be able to lock on that thing and that it stay. But ThreeJS doesn't do it that way. ThreeJS, like, you could say look at this, but then if it moves or the camera moves, like, ThreeJS doesn't even hold that concept. But that's how I want it to work. So this ST side is basically designed to view the context in the way that I want the context to be. And then the three is where any changes. So like, it is possible to say, hey, look at this object, and then basically on every animation frame recalculate where the object is and then repoint the camera. And that's not a problem. It works perfectly fine. But like, how those detail implementation details of how that is done is in three. And then the ST is like, hey, I want you to look at this. and then 3 is the one that figures out how to make sure that it gets looked at. Anyways, that it stays looked at. So I originally built the other one with one source of the truth, and that was 3. And then I realized, oh, I can't do certain things if I just use 3 as my source of the truth, because it just doesn't have certain pieces of information that I want. And so then I started sort of shoehorning little pieces in there, and then the code just became completely unmaintainable. So I'm wondering if I'm a bit concerned that if I go forward without really at least making a massive attempt at handling this potential delete issue, that I could go so far as to where I am no longer possible. It's no longer possible for me to fix a delete issue. And then if I'm trying to do certain things, I may not be able to do them because I have like a massive amount of memory leaks and stuff like that. Because a lot of times what happens is, like, you could tell the next thing you want, but you have to calculate it. Well, I don't want everything that I calculate and create this object for that object to just stay in memory. When I'm done with that object, I want it to go away out of memory. The other major thing is like, I've been working in JavaScript since 1996. So like, if we just go by years, um, in like 3 months, that'll be 30 years. And in 30 years, I've never really dug into how deleting works. Um, and so this is an opportunity, right? This is a problem. And a lot of people say, hey, there's no such thing as problems, there's only opportunities. I don't think that's true in all cases. But in this case, it is also an opportunity, because sort of the this gap in my understanding and knowledge is now shown. And it could be that we dig all the way to the bottom of this thing, and we find out that it's not even really, like, there's nothing that can be done. But how will I know if I don't go? How will I know what is at the end of that trail if I don't go down that trail? So according to ChatGPT, waiting for my history to kind of appear. There's 2 things that you might be able to encode, that you might be able to leverage, um, uh, if to determine if memory has been uh, cleared. Now the problem is both things only tell you when the memory's cleared. They don't tell you when something is available, is qualified to be clear. And I was kind of trying to think of an analogy this morning, and the analogy is, like, let's say you have a refrigerator that can hold 1,000 gallons of milk, and you want to throw away all your milk when it's expired. The JavaScript won't tell you what milk is expired. It will only tell you what milk has been thrown away. So if you could hold 1,000 gallons of milk, and you have 6 gallons of milk that's expired and 10 gallons that's not, it may just choose to not get rid of the 6 gallons, because there's plenty of room for more milk. So like, how it decides to delete stuff, that's behind the scenes inside of it. But we have this concept of a weak reference, and weak reference is like a way to make a reference to something, but it doesn't but it doesn't keep it alive. And then you can go and check to see if your object is still available. But like, so I don't think this code would work, right? Or may not work, because here we created a strong reference up here on this line, and then we created a weak reference, and then we deleted the strong reference by setting it to null. And then after the garbage collector has run, we could check to see if the weak reference still exists. But the problem is, and that's weird. So object, we set it console log we grep. Oh, okay. So this would return true, and they're saying false, but then they add this other if it has been collected. So it may or may not have been collected at the point. It just depends on whether it's been collected. So that's one thing. The other thing is there's an event apparently that gets uh, called finalize registry, and that fires anytime um, uh, uh, it could still be it's qualified, but you cannot detect this moment images. So basically, once the garbage collector, I guess this event fires. So so I feel like I want to so like kind of another thing that is kind of hard to understand, I think, is that like right now all of this stuff is completely 100% abstract. We can only imagine it. We can't actually see any representations of it whatsoever. Um, so like I feel like what we want to do the okay, so why not private because yeah, so I think what we need is like a visualization of what is still alive, or what is still um, of like what still exists. So at least like maybe a table or something that shows like every like objects that have been created, and then um, whether they're still in memory. So which is kind of weird because somehow you have to have like a list of your weak references in order to do that. So I've never really thought through exactly how you would do something like that, but I can think of what the first steps of doing something like that are. And so I definitely want to do like just a full blown detour on just exploring, trying to delete these objects and trying to validate that they have been deleted, that they are in fact deleted. And I don't know. I honestly, it's a big mystery to me what this is going to what what this is going to look like. But and I mean, how it's going to be. You know, like the experience is a complete mystery to me. But I do know it's going to be a long trip, and it's going to be a lot of um, what am I trying to say? It's going to be a lot of um, well, it's going to be a long trip, and what I'm going to learn may or may not be a lot. So there's that. So I almost feel like what we want to add is like a new little drop down here, and that little drop down will pop up like a modal, and that modal will have a table in it that has all of the objects, and we'll track the objects and see if they're still in existence or not. Now, it's possible that we'll delete them and it won't even matter because the objects will be um, like will stay even if there is no references. You know, I just don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that this is worth exploring. This is something I want to do. Um, it will definitely add the amount of time before things become more, before I can actually build really cool visualizations. I'm just imagining tons and tons of amazing visualizations that I want, and I'm not really going to be able to do them. But let's go ahead. So I remember when we changed this to a const, I was like, oh, I may end up losing that. I do want it to stay a const, but um, I do want to just sort of go back to where I was at. So I'm just double checking that there's no code that I want to keep. I thought that was a good idea. Now I'm not so sure. I would rather come up with an idea after we've done a bit of research. So I don't want to keep that. We don't care about the console log. This is supporting the parents. And there's that. And then UI service. And I do want to say that this validates my desire to do that last commit where I wasn't completely done with edit, but I had moved forward, and then I was like, I don't want to lose this code in the future if I end up going down some rabbit hole or something like this. So glad I did that. All right, so I'm just going to undo all of these, discard all these changes. And let's see, 8:45. All right, so basically the next step is we're going to work on a object memory persistent visualization, some kind of visualization that shows us what is persistent. Now, it's very, very possible that once we've actually worked through this and all that, then it'll be like, oh my gosh, all this information is actually available already in our, like if I hit F12 and I look at my memory and I run a heap, like all that information is available, but right now I can't. Oh, that's interesting. This is the first time I ever noticed it. So we could see that we have 16 point, now we're at 17, and we see that it's dropping, right? Over the last 2 minutes, it is dropped, but it's sitting at 16.7. So I haven't even noticed that. So like, it is very possible that we we'll determine that what we see in the heap snapshot has all the exact same information, and we could just have looked at that, and we don't need this memory visualization. I've done that a million times, like where you work something out. But it's very clear from the last time that we were doing the that we were looking at the snapshots and memory allocations and all of that stuff that this will actually be detached almost shows, and if I do this, oh, so these are my detached elements. Oh, okay, so we have these buttons and they're still there. So that add button and that delete button that was sitting there, they're still there. They still exist. So that is useful to know. So let's see if I change views. See, no matter what I do, those, and I don't know if this is dynamic or if this is, so basically what it says is that if I come in here and I hit add, and then delete. Okay, so that is not up to date apparently. Well, maybe. Node count 8. Let's see. Oh, okay, so that was just a snapshot. So let's look at our detached. Okay, so now we have a lot more detached elements. So that is actually very useful. So I guess we should do that. We should fix whatever the detached element, like what do I have to do to get rid of detached elements? So let me ask in ChatGPT. So I see in the memory tab of the dev tools, I see that have some buttons that are listed as detached elements. Let's see what it says about that. That are no longer attached to the dog, but still have a reference keeping them alive. Was removed from the DOM tree or inner HTML, but sometimes Okay, so we're saying append, then document remove child button is not. So it's kind of, oh, because button, this guy still exists. Okay. Okay, so using Angular. Um, so apparently, maybe I don't know that it tells you why. So it doesn't look like it tells you, but it definitely we don't. I can definitely tell you we don't want this. So we want this to go away. This probably would have been a killer. Um, I don't know. I guess not. But I mean, like, um, and this might have been that whole reason why my heap when I was looking over here, why yeah, see right now it's still 23 or 19.2 megs, but before it was like 16 megs. It has dropped and it's dropping completely, but I guess I have to take snapshot. So this is not changing. We'll clear that. We'll take another snapshot. Yeah, we still have these detached elements. It's still like all of these. Okay, so I'm using Angular. And then, and it's kind of weird. So adding and deleting are not something controlling directly. And so that I'll be interested to see that in other things. Got it. Something your Angular is still holding a DOM. Most often it's because event lists or subscriptions or services hold references. Okay, so it's saying that I may have some. So this will be interesting. And honestly, like I think once this application got bigger, it would be almost impossible to um, to remove this, to figure that out how to get rid of this. Man, this detached elements thing is a game changer for me. Let's see. So basically, in my layouts, it's in tabular layout. So I look in here, and so basically, when we add, so you don't see really anything in here or any of these. There's a timeout though. Well, so that's a timeout though. So that set up DOM visualizations, update visualization layout. So maybe it's something in there. Edit renderer items. I do remember that the visualizations had like, but they didn't. They only had references to the actual visualization, not to that. Okay, so let's see. ST. Man, I don't even have the vaguest idea what to do about this. So basically, I think this guy and this guy still exist. If I look in the tools, control, no, click on this and hit F12. See, I think this is, well, okay, so it looks like the whole table, this whole div exists. and then yeah, so like the whole div actually exists, not just the, so tab index role menu class have an index of -1. Let's look in here. Tab index 2, tab index 2, table. See, this button is our menu item. Let's open this guy up and look in here. So it's a matte icon. So here's where we can see the text. Add viz. Oh, so it is, so this is this guy up here, I think. Pretty sure it's this guy here. Yeah, add viz, add viz. Okay, so it seems to be not there, so I was looking in the wrong place. Components, interfaces, viz, my app menu. Add viz. Okay, so and so it kind of looks like okay, so app viz gets popped up. So this is the more vertical, and then it was add viz, right? So F12. Oh, so I've got to go, but it looks like this whole thing is staying up, and so, but okay, so it's just the add viz part though. So it's like not the, so it's the context menu. So it's like my map menu. So it appears to be my map menu. Map menu. That makes sense. It's one of those Angular materials that gets rendered. Angular is used over keeping it in the menu. There's a bug or misuse in the menu crate closed. Menu trigger, yes. Yeah, I'm definitely doing the menu trigger. Destroy them manually. Okay, so anyway, so it looks like, yeah, something in here is keeping these objects in memory even after we've deleted it. So I guess that's what we will investigate tomorrow. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.